because it depends what you're putting in there. Obviously, a machine that's filled with corn silage and barley feeds a lot more cows than a machine that's filled with mostly straw. Whenever we enter a discussion with a producer that's buying their first feed mixer, the question that most often comes up is, how big of a mixer do I need? And obviously there's a few questions that need to be answered there. What are you trying to do with it? How many cows do you have? Are you feeding actual mother cows? Are you feeding milking dairy cows? Or are you feeding, backgrounding or feedlot type animals? Because there's a few different requirements there, and it'll depend on what kind of rations you're feeding as well. So in the next couple minutes, I'll try to cover the basics of it so that you can get an idea of what size machine you think you would need. The most common selling machine is the Supreme 700 cubic foot twin screw machine. And that comes in both the Supreme 7T Segway as well as also the Supreme 700T. But that's a twin screw machine, 700 cubic feet. Some people think immediately, oh, twin screw, that's a huge machine. No, a 700 cubic foot machine is about an average size. And in the Supreme world, that machine is only rated at about 110 PTO horsepower. So you don't need a very big tractor. I kind of tell all my customers, you only need about 100 horsepower to turn the screws. The screws don't actually need that much power. I like to see, 125, 130 horse on it, just because when the machine is full, it can get pretty heavy. So you need it not necessarily so much for PTO power as you do just size and bulk of tractor. But if you're anywhere in that 110 to 130 horsepower range, you can handle a 700 twin screw quite handily. A 700 twin is a really nice machine. It is big enough that it will hold 2 full round bales. And that machine maxes out at about 14,000 pounds. Now, whenever I say that, I like to put a little asterisk on the end of that and say that, yes, it will hold 14,000 pounds. But to get 14,000 pounds in there, you need to be putting some pretty dense material in there. So if you're filling a bit with nothing but corn silage and barley, yeah, you'll probably get to 14,000 pounds. In a more common cow-calf ration where you're utilizing some bulkier materials or some lighter materials, mainly straw, very bulky but doesn't weigh very much. You put 2 big straw bales in there, or you put a straw bale and a hay bale in there, and then you top up with silage, barley, etc. I think a more realistic ration in a 700 twin is, in that 7,000 to 8,000 pound range. That's probably a more common batch size. As a rule of thumb, when we're talking beef cows, I like to say that a 700 twin will feed 100 to 150 beef cows per batch. It's a rule of thumb, but, because it depends what you're putting in there. Obviously, a machine that's filled with corn silage and barley feeds a lot more cows than a machine that's filled with mostly straw. So that's kind of the overview on a 700 twin. So moving on to the 900 twin screw, again, also a twin screw machine, but a little bit bigger unit. A 700 will take 2 big full round bales. A 900, I like to think of a 900 as taking 2 big round bales easy, or 3 tight. A 900 twin is rated at about 24,000 pounds maximum payload. But again, probably a more realistic payload is in that 14 to 16,000 pound range, particularly for a beef producer that is probably utilizing some bulkier product in their ration, whether that be hay or straw. And again, as a rule of thumb, if a 700 twin will do 100 to 150 mother cows on a batch, a 900 will typically do 150 to 200 mother cows on a batch. Again, with the asterisks behind that, it really depends what you're putting in there as far as your mix. Moving up from there to the 1200 twin. The 1200 twin max payload 30,000 pounds. Probably a more realistic payload 20,000 pounds. You're going to feed 200 cows plus with a 1200 twin. A 1200 twin screw will take 3 big round bales easy, 4 big round bales tight. So just that much bigger machine again. One note I should put on all of this is, I mean, it does depend what you're putting in there. If you are using mainly silage and grain, you're going to get a lot more feed in the mixer, a lot more pounds, a lot more weight, and consequently you're going to feed a lot more cows than if you tend to be using bulkier products. So producers that are using lots of dry material, lots of straw, lots of hay, lots of green feed, they're not going to get as many pounds in there. And typically then they want to go with larger mixers so that they can get more bales in, more feed, and consequently do fewer batches. One thing that we commonly say here is any size mixer will do the job. It just depends how many batches you want to do in a day. And typically for a cow-calf beef producer, most beef producers want to do 2 to 3, maybe 3 to 4 batches in a day and be done. We do have customers that are doing 8 and 10 batches a day, but most people don't want to dedicate a machine or dedicate that much time to feeding in a single day. So as a rule of thumb, try to buy a machine that will feed all your cattle in 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 batches in a day.